Hello guys, welcome to Hatchsput Economics, Hatchsput, and it's your girl Connie. And if you haven't done so already, if it's your first time here, I want to say welcome to my page. And please like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the notification bell to get notifications. So the title of this video is, how can a wife make you rich, or how a wife can make you rich? You're probably like, what the hell is that about? Is that some pro-woman mantra? It actually is not. If you're used to this channel, you know that all I do is really iterate facts. I go to the most factual sources I can possibly get and bring you the facts so you can actually make sense when you talk. So why am I talking about this? So as you know, the economics in the urban communities is coming to a standstill, or coming to a tsunami, kamikaze, whatever you want to say. So I wanted to just do a little deeper research, and what I saw was a common thread amongst demographics that are doing very well. So without naming or blaming or attacking or just going on some kind of crazy rant, just being really logical, what is the common thread that drives all super successful demographics? And this is excluding the majority of Caucasian Americans. I was just looking at any demographic, especially an emphasis on other minority demographics. So what I saw was very astounding. In the United States of America, there's several major religious groups. And in those religious groups, they have a similar culture of family first, which means they actually are proactive in preparing to care, lead, and protect for their families. So what does that mean? That means if you just get a wife overnight and you didn't prepare, you're going to fail. This is not saying that if you get a wife tomorrow and you're poor, all of a sudden you're going to come into abundance. That is not what this video is about. That's not what this video is about. It's a title, son. It's a title. It's supposed to pull you in. What this video is about is, how can a wife make you rich? And the way she can make you rich is by being proactive. A way that she can make you rich is by anticipating, expecting that you will be in charge, that you will need to have a certain amount of economic and financial leverage to take care of a wife and family. And if you raise yourself that way, if you're proactive that way, you will eventually be able to do so. And by doing so, you're going to increase your net worth, because the only way you can take care of a wife and a family is if you're making sure you're taken care of first. So let's just go through the list. At the end of this video, like I always do, please check the description box for the links, because I always like to back up my facts and back up the receipts. Like I said, all the information I get is out there. It is my choice and my job and my passion to bring you factual, neutral-based information that anyone can get, but I'm the only one doing it. So if it's out there, it's going to be in here. So the study that I read was a Pew Research. So if you guys are not familiar with the Pew Research, it is a neutral publication derived of statistics, facts, and research. It is neutral. It's not political. It is a neutral and balanced fact tank. So how income varies among U.S. religious groups. So I was looking at religious groups because I actually partnered with a gentleman in one of my Laws of Enchantress courses, and he gave me the feedback that the secret to wealth is family, and preparing for a family, and being proactive in being able to lead a family as a man. So I know it sounds kind of like gender bias and all kinds of stuff, but I'm just giving you the facts. It's not to make you feel good about yourself or make you feel bad. It's just the facts. There is a strong correlation between education, income, and also religion. But because we're in a very, how can I say this, liberal, extreme society, that's not something that's going to be popular with the feminist mantra. It's just not. Because, you know, a lot of people attribute religious and stuff like that with against women, suppressing women, oppressing women, which can be further from the truth. I'm going to start talking to you about household incomes of religious groups. And if you look at the cultural norms for these religious groups, you will easily see a common trend of being very staged. And what I mean by stage, they get married, they have children, and one predominant partner is the earner, and one predominant partner manages and runs and works from the household. Now look at the word I say work, because these moms, they are working at home. They're managing the household. They could be doing the work themselves, or actually managing people and managing the money, managing the finances, whatever you want to call it. There is a structural balance, and it is gender-based. So let me just get right to it. The first income in the United States that makes the most, the first religious group that is very traditional and sticks to gender norms is Jewish. So right here, I'm looking at the percentage of each religious group with total family income of blank per year. So Jewish people, there's 44% of all Jewish people in the United States have an average, okay? This is not a peak. This is a medium range. The average income for 44% of all Jewish peoples in the United States is $100,000. And this is by the Pew Research. Again, I'll be putting this link in the description box so you can review it for yourself. 24% of all Jewish people in the United States range from $50,000 to $99,999,000 of income per year. Only 15% of anybody of the Jewish faith average about $30,000 to $50,000 a year. Only 15%. Only 16% of all Jewish people in the United States have an annual salary of $30,000 a year. So what does that mean? Why am I telling you? Again, when I broke it down and I look into the culture and the traditions, their marriage rates are extremely high. And not just their marriage rates, what happens in those marriages tend to be extremely traditional. You have the Jewish men out there making the predominant salary, and a lot of times, even when the Jewish woman is highly educated, highly refined, she still finds herself into some way, shape, or form of a gender role where she's the predominant one running the household, despite her education or lack thereof. So that's very outstanding. But what I saw was this was a common trend. There was not one high earning demographic that went away from this trend of having a traditional household setup. So if you're looking to have a successful marriage, if you're looking to have a successful economic background, if you're looking to build a successful economic family, this perhaps may be one of the best ways to follow. You don't have to be Jewish, but you can just get the cusp of what they're doing. The next second highest religious demographic in the United States is Hindu. 36% of all Hindus in the United States of America, their annual income average is $100,000. So that means every single person of the Hindu faith in the United States of America, they have an average salary of $100,000. Next, 34% of all Hindus have an average salary of $50,000 to $99,999, so $100,000. So that's 34% of all Hindus. Only 13% of anyone in the Hindu religion in the United States makes $30,000 to $49,999. And only 17% of all Hindus in the United States have an annual yearly income of $30,000. So again, when I looked inside the Hindu culture and religion, I saw a strong, consistent beam of marriage. And not just marriage, the same gender structure, where even if the woman is educated and the man's educated, once the children come into the picture, the man has a predominant salary, and he's leading and he's protecting, he's providing, and the woman's managing the home in some way, shape, or form, despite her education or lack thereof. So that's how a wife can make you rich, because a lot of these guys anticipate that they will be a leader and provider in some way, shape, or form. So they prepare for it. If these men said, I'm just going to be about me, son, or I'm just going to take care of me, son, me, when they get married, they wouldn't have the means, the network, and the connections, whatever it is, to be able to command a salary, to be able to be the head of the family. So because they know and anticipate and they expect that they will be in this role, because this is a culture, this is a tradition. It's not by mistake that the majority of men in these demographics take on these cultural traditional norms. It is expected of them. So they're raised with that. They're brought up with that. And that's how the anticipation of having a wife can make you rich. If you look at the men who do not live like that, if you look at the men, despite the race, despite the color, nationality, any man who's raised just to take care of himself, me, blah, blah, blah. Most of these men are not rich. The richest men in the world tend to be married, and married for a long time. From Bill Gates to Steve Jobs to Warren Buffett to Mark Zuckerberg to Jeff Bezos to the maker of Dell. If you look at all the top, these men are not swinging bachelors. They have very stable homes, very stable families, and there is a traditional, some sort of gender role theme that goes throughout all of these things. So I'm going to continue. The third denomination that makes the most money in terms of religion, but makes the most money, is Episcopal, all right? So 35% of all Episcopals in the United States make $100,000, 35%. So if you're of the Episcopal faith, your median average salary is $100,000, 35%. Then 34% of Episcopal people in the Episcopal Church make about $50,000 to $999,999 to $100,000. Only 13% of anyone in the Episcopal Church have an average salary of $30,000 to $50,000. Only 19% of anyone in the Episcopal Church have a salary of $30,000 or lower. Again, when I did my research and looked into the culture, traditional, and marriage rates, the structure is exactly the same. It does not change. What I'm going to do is keep going, if I can keep your attention. As you go lower, as the salary drops, you're going to start to notice the tradition and cultures also change dramatically. Not even slightly, it is dramatically. So now I'm going to go to Presbyterian, all right? 32% of all Presbyterians in the United States have an average median salary of $100,000, okay? Total family income, $100,000. 34% of Episcopals have an average household salary, 34%, $50,000 to $100,000. Only 13% of anyone who calls himself, is it Presbyterian? Am I a Presbyterian? I'm sorry. 32%, let me start over because it gets confusing. Presbyterian Church, 32%, $100,000. Presbyterian Church, $50,000 to $90,000, 29%. Presbyterian Church, only 15% of anybody who's a Presbyterian makes $30,000 to $50,000. And only 24% of anyone Presbyterian makes $30,000 or less. So again, when I'm looking at these religions, I'm going to keep repeating myself so you guys can understand. It's not the religion I'm looking at per se. I'm looking for culture, tradition, and marriage rates, and how that correlates to economic outcomes, and how do gender roles, tradition, and family affect your outcome in terms of economics. And again, all of these religions I just named tend to have men who provide, tend to have men who enjoy the traditional structure, tend to have women that enjoy being in the traditional world, tend to have women that are educated most of the time, but fall back and manage and work in the household, okay? So now I'm going to go to atheists. Atheists is there too, to be fair. 30% of atheists make $100,000 or more. 28% of atheists make $50,000 to $100,000. 30,000 to 50,000 make 18%, and 24% of all atheists make $30,000 or lower. So now we're going to the first lowest rung, okay? It's getting lower and lower. So they start with atheist because that's the first one. Agnostic, which is like, I'm not atheist, but I can be, I'm not sure. So agnostic, it says right here that 29% of anyone who's agnostic makes $100,000. Not bad. Then it goes to 30% of anyone who's agnostic makes $100,000. Then 18% of anyone that's agnostic makes $30,000 to $50,000. And then anyone who's agnostic makes about 22% of their population in the $30,000 range. So you see, and there's a lot of churches here. But what I noticed, because I'm not going to kill you, all right? I noticed that the churches that are predominantly minority, it gets really bad, all right? Because the first one I went to was Southern Baptist Convention. Out of the Southern Baptist Convention, only 16% of people in that church make $100,000 or more. Yet 32% of people who are Southern Baptist Convention make less than $30,000 a year. It's really crazy. Again, Seventh-day Adventists tend to have a lot of people of color, even though it's diversified, but a lot of people I know are Seventh-day Adventists and they're African American. Only 15% of Seventh-day Adventists make $100,000 or more. It's kind of crazy. Assemblies of God, only 10%, and these are heavily minority churches. American Baptist Church, only 9%. Church of God in Christ, 9%. And these people are only making $100,000 or more. They're only 9% of the religion. National Baptist Convention, 9%. But if you go to the National Baptist Convention, over almost 50% of people who are in the National Baptist Convention make $30,000 or less. Then Jehovah's Witness, only 4% of all Jehovah's Witness rank at $100,000 or more. But yet, if you look at the lower end, 48% of all Jehovah's Witness have a salary, a household income salary of $30,000 or less. This is extreme poverty. Just so you know, all the numbers I've given you, they're for a household medium income. Household income. So every single household, whether it's one person, 2, or 10. So that's really low. And what I noticed is as it gets lower, the traditional norms and gender roles completely evaporate. I mean, it's completely not there. When they're not expected to take care of a wife or lead a household, you see that economic number drop. But when those cultural traditions are at a peak, you see that economic number rise and flourish. Some of the most financially successful groups, Jews, Hindus, Episcopalians, Presbyterians, are also educated. And these rankings, which come from the 2014 Religious Landscape Study, are based on the percentage of people within each religious group who resides in the household with a yearly income of $100,000 or more. About 4 in 10 Jews, which is 44%, and roughly a third of Hindus, 36%, and Episcopals, 35%, live in a household with incomes of at least $100,000. Again, these groups also have high level of educational attainments. And the reason why these groups tend to have high level of educational attainments is because these cultural groups are traditional. And they know the men need to be educated or have some type of thing going because they're going to be the predominant caretaker. And this is how a wife makes you rich. When you expect to take care of a wife, when you have the idea, when you have the thought, when you have the proactiveness to take care of a wife. Like I said, if you're a bum and you have no plan, no education, no entrepreneurial skills, you have no way to hustle, you're just there, son. If you marry a wife, no, you're not going to hit the lottery. Your wife is not a walking lottery ticket. I want to make that clear. I want to break it down. But I want to break it down. But I think this is a very important thing for black men, black women, all men, taste the rainbow, taste the tropics, to understand that there is a direct correlation between traditional gender roles and poverty. As those gender roles break down, as those cultural roles break down, so does the economic progress. I'm going to go again. Okay? For instance, nearly half of all Hindus and adults and almost 1/3 of Jewish adults, mostly the men, hold postgraduate degrees. And I'm going to pause. The reason why they hold postgraduate degrees is because they know at some way, shape, or form they're preparing to be a husband and provide for their wife and family. This is how a wife makes you rich. Because if you don't prepare for a wife, if you don't expect a wife, if you don't care about having a wife, probably you wouldn't go for a postgraduate degree. If you're only going to take care of yourself, you don't got to aim so high. If you're only taking care of yourself and you can't pay your rent and you're short, who cares? It's all about you. It doesn't matter. If you can't, if you live in paycheck to paycheck and you don't got money and you got to starve a couple of days, you don't really care because it's all about you. Yeah, it's you. You treat yourself bad. But if you know proactively and you're raised in that culture where it's respected, where it's expected, respected, expected, respected, expected, respected. I got a rap song. Expected, respected. Let me stop being silly. But if you're raised in that culture where you're expected and respected as a male leader to be able to provide, of course you're going to be hyper aggressive. And that's why most of these men, not the women, hold a big portion of postgraduate degrees. Okay? And of course, education, other factors such as age, race, and ethnicity are correlated with religion. All right? So members of other mainline Protestant denominations, evangelical Lutheran churches in America, Presbyterian churches in America, Methodist churches also have high household incomes along with those gender norms. So too do self-identified agnostics and atheists. Okay? Members of all these groups are more likely to be highly educated than the general population. But one of the key factors with people that were atheist and agnostic, believe it or not, they may not have the religious belief. But what was so strange is that a lot of these people who are seriously, hardcore agnostic or atheist tend to be highly educated and they still conform to religious not religious, cultural norms of staying home once they earn a salary. That's where the liberal hypocrisy comes in. They don't believe in God, they don't follow God, screw Christianity, but they're following a structure of family that makes them highly successful. All right? So among those denominations with the lowest household incomes, denominations with the lowest household incomes are two historically black churches. Big surprise. The National Baptist Convention, only 9% live in a household with incomes of less than $100,000. And the Church of God in Christ, 9%. That's it. Only 9% of anybody in the Church of House of God of Christ make $100,000. Jehovah Witness, which have a large black population, have one of the lowest household incomes in the $100,000 range of only 4%. In all three of these groups, nearly half of all these members, nearly half of everyone in these religious members that have a strong black population, earning income of $30,000 or less. This is a household, not just one person, household, okay? So given that roughly 1 in 5 Americans identify as Catholic, I'm Catholic, okay? It's not surprising that the share of Catholics in the top income bracket, 19%, is the same as the nation as a whole, all right? So 19% of most Americans or Catholics fall in that higher bracket. Members of one of the country's largest Protestant denominations, the Southern Baptist Convention, are only slightly less well off, with 16% in the household making $100,000 or more. So that's my whole point. If you prepare as a man and even as a woman, because running a household, being an effective, efficient household executive, that's what I call it, or a professional home management, because it's not easy. I have walked, sorry girls, into some of your homes, and if you're staying home and the house is messy, the houses don't have food, they don't have groceries, you can't cook, you can't clean, the bills are not paid, the cable's turned off, you're not doing your job. Running a house is a job. If you don't believe me, try to hire a living nanny. If you don't believe me, try to hire a living cook. If you don't believe me, try to hire a living butler or housekeeper. If you don't believe me, try to hire a chauffeur. If you don't believe me, try to hire a living tutor. Just add all these jobs up. They're very expensive. Nannies, professional nannies with education and degrees can easily make over $100,000 in New York City. That's why you see a lot of these rich people hiring West Indians and Hispanics who are not even legally here or not even legally able to take care of their children. They're not licensed, but they go out of their way even though they can afford more, because the actual real licensed nanny makes a killing. If you think that taking care of a child is not a big job, why do you think daycare centers make so much money? Childcare is immense. And you're talking about just the physical stuff. You're not talking about the emotional, because you got to make sure you're your child's therapist. How are you doing? Forming a relationship. Make sure they're developing psychologically, mentally, emotionally. And on top of it, you're a wife. You are a counselor. You are a soother. You're there to be a positive reinforcement with your husband. So you got to make sure you're taking care of yourself emotionally as well. You got to make sure you come first before anybody can come first, because you can't give anything if you don't feel good about yourself. So taking care and maintaining yourself, being your own cheerleader, being your own motivator, being your own fitness person, being your own personal trainer, being your own nutritionist. There's so much things that go into it, and you can easily see why so many marriages have a 50% or more divorce rate, because that's just, it's not happening. You got an alpha male, you got an alpha female, and no one's taking care of all the paramount necessities. But yet the marriages that have these gender roles and have these superior incomes, they tend to have very few divorces. Jewish and Hindus tend to have some of the lowest divorce rates in the United States, but yet they have the highest cultural traditional norms of genders. So this is how a wife, preparing for a wife, expecting a wife, anticipating a wife, can actually, as a man, make you richer, and actually as a woman, have a more productive life, because it's balanced. Too many people, especially some men, are just about, I'm going to do for me, I'm going to take care of me, not realizing you're setting the bar low. Once you set the bar to take care of a wife, a house, and household, you already surpassed yourself, because like I said, if you could take care of them, of course you could take care of yourself 5 times over. And that's how you can pass down generational wealth. That's how you can start building a legacy. That's how you start building real economic worth, when you can pass on to your children. But the only way to do that is be proactive. The only way to do that is to anticipate and expect. The only way to do that is to start instilling a sense of culture and tradition. And it's not to give all the work to the man. I have been reviewing stay-at-home moms, and I'm seeing all these brilliant black children becoming exceptionally talented and gifted for the simple fact that mom is in the home homeschooling these kids, at least for a big portion of their life, which is the most crucial building blocks of intelligence, instead of just dumping them in a school. It's not a shocker that 85% of black children who reach a genius level, 85% have been homeschooled with a big influence from their mom while the dad provided. So that's just the truth. I don't think it's rocket science. I don't think it's that complicated. We can find a middle ground of traditionalism and modernism and make it work. But right now, as we speak, economically, we threw out the baby with the bathwater. It's just not working what's happening. So we can look at who's making it work and take bits and pieces. You don't have to become Jewish. You don't have to become Episcopal. You don't have to become any specific religion. But what we're looking at are the successful norms that are consistent throughout the top producing economic demographics. All right? That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this segment of Why a Wife Can Make You Rich. If you haven't done so, please like and subscribe. Please feel free to share this video. And don't forget to hit that bell for notifications. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.